So I'm here again. I can't say my friend, but we know each other. That's better.
We can say we're friends.
We spoke 3 years ago.
Yeah.
At an event in the Netherlands, and she gave me a book, Web of Influence. And a new book is coming out when?
So it's the second edition of that one, and it's coming out, I think, in April 2017. But most of it is actually new, which is good, I guess, for the readers.
Yeah, you just need to buy the new book. That's the conclusion, right?
Yeah, sorry.
You just did a talk at Next, and one of the points that was, that triggered me, was interesting, was, of course the whole talk was interesting, but that triggered me, was the dopamine loop.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
So, well, I'll explain what the dopamine loop is.
Right.
So basically there's, we all know that we have neurochemicals in the brain, and dopamine is one of the chemicals associated with things like thrill-seeking, sensation-seeking, and reward. And when we get stimulated with dopamine hits, we can end up becoming addicted to that kind of behavior. Well, addiction is maybe a strong word, but so for instance, every time you get a notification, you think you might get a reward. It's going to be small, it's going to be unpredictable, and this is known as a variable ratio of reinforcement. So if you have that set up, like you do on Twitter or Facebook or in your email inbox, people are much more likely, all of us included, to keep going back into that app or that platform to find that little reward, but it's never satisfying enough. So we keep doing it, and it's the same reason why many of us will just completely sort of lose 3 hours information seeking, because it hits up that same system.
And you said addiction is a strong word, but I don't think so. It pretty much describes it.
Well, I think if it's a system in which you're kind of going out of your way to hide the behavior or to engage in that behavior when it's having detrimental effects to the rest of your life, that's kind of a very broad psychological definition of addiction. So if it's starting to harm your interactions, your relationships, your well-being, and some could argue that it is, for some of us it is, then there is a potential that it's addictive and problematic.
Yeah, there was just a song on stage, it was Beaches.
Oh yeah.
And he talks about his friend who was an hour in the bar, and he just didn't talk with anybody, just looked at the phone all the time. So that sounds like an addiction to me.
Yeah, and I think also there are other complexities to this situation, which is kind of, we don't want to feel alone, we don't want to feel discomfort, we don't want to feel bored. And so I think it's not just about the reward, it's also about an alleviation of uncomfortable feelings. So if you can stay with the discomfort and the boredom and meet someone's eyes and make a new friend, it's going to be very rewarding, but it requires greater risk. So many of us decide to avoid that.
Right. So the dopamine loop can be used and misused.
I think so. I think there's always a question when you're talking about psychological principles and these underlying kind of dynamics, I suppose, that at play as to how we're using them. So if it serves the customer and it serves the business, that's mutual benefit, it's win-win, you're facilitating a better experience, I'd say that that's persuasion, and that's a good use of these principles. At the other end is coercion and sort of persuasion when it tips into the darker side, so manipulative, covert practices. So if it doesn't serve your customer and it serves your bottom line, don't advise you do it.
Well, I think that Facebook, for example, is pretty close to this manipulative side. You just
I actually have not. Yeah, I have not used Facebook for 3 years.
But you use Twitter.
I use Twitter.
Similar.
Yeah. So I think the difficulty is figuring out where that line is for you. So I have a very distinct line which I will and won't cross. And for other people, it's a question of, okay, is this serving me? Is this empowering me? Is this helping me live a fulfilled life? What does that mean for you? It's a very personal question, but it's one that I think serves us all to ask.
Right. Thank you, Nathalie.
My pleasure.
Oh, remember, buy the book. I have the old one. There's a review on it, but you get the new version because it has a lot of updated info.
Yeah, April 2017. Great, thank you.